What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Look, I'm a huge fan of the 1980s and 1990s, just like anybody else. I'm not a huge fan of the game today. I don't like all the three pointers they shoot. I don't like everything pushed out to the perimeter. I don't like the low IQ shit that I see today. I don't like the media trying to force me to like something. They're telling me, oh, I'm just being a curmudgeon. I need to just, you know, evolve with the times. No, I don't like the way basketball is being played there. I grew up liking it a certain type of way. I like guys actually playing the fucking positions that we grew up they were supposed to be playing. You know what I'm saying? Not all of these hybrid combo unicorn shit. I like to see the basketball played the way that we grew up watching. So that's just me. Um, so look, because of this, yeah, naturally I have an aversion toward a certain fan base who sometimes get on your nerves, because they're always crapping on the players of the past, and everything before 2000 was garbage and all that crap. But I have to say something though. A lot of fans of these guys right here sometimes have the same mindset, and it aggravates me. Like me personally, with the exception of the 40s and early 50s, I can enjoy any era of the NBA. I can sit down and watch a game, even if it's in black and white, even if the defenses look primitive. I appreciate it for how the game has evolved to what the point it is at that time. But I do notice that some Jordan fans, some Magic fans, some Bird fans, some 80s and 90s fans, they tend to look at basketball like this. Not all, but some. They look at everything before the 1980s as garbage, and everything after 1999, or at least 2005, as garbage. And see, I don't look at basketball like that. I appreciate the NBA in the past. I've seen a couple of threads where people say, look, this is something I saw that popped up. I saw someone say, well, the 1970s were a much more physical era compared to the 1960s. Well, says who? Says who? Because Will Chamberlain, for instance, will tell you that it wasn't until he got to the Lakers, which was the late 60s into the 70s, when he was able to dunk with more regularity. Now, the reason why he was able to dunk with more regularity, why you saw him dunk more often, wasn't just because he decided to switch to a power game. It was because he was being allowed to do so. Why? Because centers were playing more off of him then. The rules had made it more. The rules had changed so that centers were becoming and were able to be more lax on defense. Before that, a center could basically do what the fuck they want to do as far as beating Wilt up, beating Walt Bellamy up, being all over him, double hand checking, all of that nature. It wasn't until maybe 69, 70 when the NBA started laxing some of those rules, started laxing some of the ball handling rules, started counting assists more liberally, allowing the great ball handlers of the 70s to be able to do more with the basketball, like a Pete Maravich, like a Nate Archibald, you know, like maybe a Walt Frazier. They're able to do a little bit more. Certainly, with Earl the Pearl, he was able to do these things because the NBA partly was trying to keep up in competition with the ABA, so they were laxing their rules. So no, I don't think the 70s was this magical era where everything just got better all of a sudden. Because remember, the ratings were down for a reason. The ratings were down in the 70s, not because they didn't have stars. You had stars in the NBA in the 1970s. You had, your stars. You had your John Havliceks. You had your Dave Cowens. You had your JoJo Whites. You had your Bob McAdoo's. You had your Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's. You had your later on Artis Gilmore's. You had, your Happy Hairstons. You had um, your Sidney Wicks. You had your just so many Bill Walton, uh shit, who so many goddamn stars, man. There were a lot of stars in the 70s. Rick Barry, Jeff Mullins, Gus Williams. The problem was they didn't have those iconic stars. Even Kareem, his personality wasn't Madison Avenue. He wasn't box office in that aspect. The 60s had Kareem. Had Wilt. You had Bill Russell. You had Jerry West. You had Elgin Baylor. You had a few 50s carryovers like Dolph Shades and Bob Pettit. These huge names. Secondary stars, like Hal Greer, Sam Jones, John Havlicek. Remember, there were only 8 to 14 teams. So yes, there were fewer teams, but there was more stars in the NBA because there was fewer opportunities. Just like if you slashed the teams from 32 or 30, whatever the hell it is right now, to 15, the quality of competition would go way up in the NBA because a lot of these guys that are playing now will be sitting their asses in the stands because they wouldn't be able to make an NBA roster. So to say the quality of competition, the NBA got better in the 70s, um, I don't necessarily agree with that. And I don't like any era bashing another era. I just don't like it. Um, it's bullshit. And I think we should be able to appreciate all NBA. Look, even those guys that played in the 40s, man. Even those guys that played in the 40s, yes, if you take them in today's NBA, they wouldn't be able to make the NBA, obviously. But I do feel that if you take a Joe Fulks, if you take a Max Zaslavsky, if you take a Brad Davies, and you put them in today's NBA and have them being born 60 years later, I think they would still be stars. They would still be able to take advantage of what is out there today, and I think they would be stars today. I think any star, if you put them into today's environment, have them being born 60 years later, and take advantage of all the things that we have today, they would still be stars. So anyway, that's just how I feel about the situation. Tell me what you guys think.